be good. Should be good.
Cool.
Cool. Now I get a second chance at the intro.
Totally.
Wonderful.
Me too. I'm feeling better about this.
All right. So take one. Welcome to the Breakdown, a Music Mondays exclusive segment. I'm your host Ivahka Glass, and I am here with Tamagotchi Massacre.
Thank you, Ivahka. So nice to be here.
So Tamagotchi Massacre. How do you like to be addressed by people on the internet?
Yeah, you can call me Tamagotchi Massacre. My name's Cleo. That's good too. Some people call me Tama. Some people call me Miss Massacre. Anything's fine.
All right. So Cleo, how are you doing on this fine evening? It is.
Oh, what's that? You cut out a bit.
No, actually. So what happened is I was gonna say more, and then I lost my train of thought completely. So how
Okay,
are
no
you doing
problem.
on this fine evening?
I'm doing good. I'm just hanging out. It's finals week at my school, so I'm getting a bunch of work done. But really excited to talk about my music.
Yeah. So you have, when people hear this, an album out called "I
Yeah,
Guess I'm a Woman Now," uh, and you're currently, while we're speaking, in the process of the final mix and masters, right?
yeah,
So the song structure, everything else, that's set in stone, right? So I won't be surprised in the future. Uh,
yeah. There's gonna be
s-
one more kind of interlude between like right before "Wrong Time, Wrong Place" that I still need to like finish actually producing. But other than that, everything's gonna be the same.
all right. I just wanted to know for myself, also for future reference, because it's like some people could be at this stage. I personally have been at the stage where I'm like, all right, I got to get this out. I got everything almost ready. I'm gonna change the whole goddamn thing right now.
Yeah.
Like, uh, so you just need to say, I guess, on the record whether you are going to change the whole goddamn thing or not, and you're not going to, which is good for me because I like this one quite a bit. Uh,
Thank you.
so I guess I'm a woman now is about what?
Um, yeah, I guess it's kind of about this like realization that transitioning isn't going to fix everything in my life. I think when I started transitioning 2 years ago, I had this really like optimistic view about what the future looks like. Um, and I think over time, that view started to crumble, um, and all these things start like I started to be to get in this kind of like terrible mindset where I would focus on my appearance and passing and I wasn't sure of myself at all. And I think I started to realize that like, oh, this isn't because I'm trans. This is because I'm a woman, right? And um, these are all like uniquely female experiences. And of course, my life is not going to be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely like the most. I feel like a lot of trans people, trans women in general, or not trans women specifically, will not acknowledge the fact that cis women do have a similar but less extreme struggle in like a lot of ways. You know that
Hmm.
there is a lot of similarity going on to what's happening, even though there's a core difference of like, you are cis. Like there's that core difference of like you will never actually understand what I'm going through. However, I
Hmm.
can understand what you're going through, and you can try to understand what I'm going through.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you you'll never know someone else's experience wholly. But yeah, Uh, I personally related to this album, pretty well, especially with the whole gender stuff. It's very, you know, I'd say this is a pretty heavy listen. Uh,
Mhm.
it's a pretty, what really, would you agree?
I mean, yeah, I think I kind of wanted with this record. I wanted, to express what I'm feeling, and I'm dealing with lots of really heavy emotions. I think I wanted to kind of sonically be less heavy than my previous work. Right? There's lots of like this bubbly pop and fun little video game synths and stuff, but yeah, as far as like lyrical content, I don't know. It's pretty intense stuff that I'm dealing with. Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah, because it's very lyrically intense and sonically, it still is sonically intense, but it's not like scary sounds. It's more of
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's kind of like a God, what is the word? A It's like your emotional support video game sample, you know, to get
Totally.
you through get you through what's going on in the song. Uh,
Hmm.
that kind of vibe of, yeah, because there's a lot of just like lightness to the production. There's a lot of even like the I guess the album art. If I'm looking at it right now, that's the official album art for I Guess
Yeah.
I'm Woman Now.
Hmm.
So that we can look at that right now. I'm not gonna put it on the screen because
Hmm.
Sam does the editing. So Sam, if you're hearing this, put it on the screen. And if you didn't put it on the screen, oh well. Uh, Google it. Look up the art right now because you should be already have listened to the album. And if you haven't listened to the album, I hope this conversation makes you want to. But let's look at like looking at the album art. Like the mirrored reflection is the sonic palette of that bright, bubbly, you know hyper vibe. I wouldn't consider your music hyper pop as much as like it's not like hyper pop uh, in the sense of construction, especially. I feel like your songwriting is very your song structure. I mean, is
Hmm.
very. I wouldn't. It's like not contemporary is not the word, but it's like alternative. In
Hmm.
comparison to like being like poppy. Uh, while still, yeah, you're still remaining. How would you describe your music? Would you say the H word?
Yeah, I would say like hyperpop, but without a capital H. I'm in the hyperpop
Yeah.
scene. I think a lot of the artists that I try to emulate are hyperpop. But I think yeah, I do have a really like kind of alternative singer-songwriter approach to songwriting. Um, that I try to like, uh, uh, yeah, I try to use my songwriting to kind of set me apart from different hyperpop artists.
Whew. I should have led with asking you to describe before I tiptoed around. There's when people make music that is lowercase hyperpop,
Hmm.
it's so hard to say the word hyperpop about it and them and not unless they've read my tweet thread about hyperpop, which probably doesn't exist anymore. I feel like I've gone on like a tangent about hyperpop before, and it's gone
Hmm.
now. But it's so hard to like call someone hyperpop unless they're making capital H hyperpop,
Totally.
and it's like, oh, I'm gonna call you hyperpop because that's what you are. But otherwise, it's like, why don't we call it future pop as well to try to
Yeah.
just like discern? Because that's what it is. It's just a new wave of pop. And we call it
Hmm.
hyperpop, and this is very new wave pop with. So I had said this is take one, and if you've gotten this far, I'm gonna let you on in on a little secret. This isn't take one. Uh, so you had said when you conceive a song, you have a thesis statement.
Hmm.
That
Um,
that alone sets you apart.
well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if it's more, I don't know if it's exactly a thesis statement. It's more of like a thesis idea or ethos,
Yeah.
before I write any music or do any production or write any lyrics even, I have this kind of like, I think about like what I'm dealing with in my personal life, kind of what I'm feeling, what interpersonal or intrapersonal issues I'm dealing with, and then I kind of uh, uh, build all of my music and lyrics and production around that one specific idea, and try to think how all of those elements can complement that idea, um, and like expand on it, I guess.
Yeah, that's so that's so cool. I really am like astounded by that. Truly, like I guess I do like a similar thing. It was like the first four bars like set the tone, and if nothing makes sense compared to that, or when I get to the hook, then I rewrite based on the hook. Does it make sense
Mm-hmm.
compared to this thought? But to I got the beat picked out already. The beat's been made for like 6 months, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so it's just like to think that or do you sometimes find like just find a beat and go on that as well?
Not really. I don't think I'm very good at like beat making as it is. I'm normally making my instrumentals while I'm writing the lyrics and the melody and everything all at once, um, because I want to make sure there is space in the beat or in the melody to like say what I want to say. Um, and so, yeah, I kind of do everything all at once.
Yeah, so you're more of like a composer than a producer, in the sense of like those as the capital C, capital P producer, um, of the way that you go about it.
Mhm.
Because that's how like I would do things when do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I play the drums and guitar and keyboard.
Okay, and did you start before you started doing digital music? Did you do like analog music? Were you ever in a band?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was in like a couple like punk bands in high school, and like indie bands. Yeah.
Okay, so you definitely that influence shows in your songwriting style and in your process too. Like I that makes total sense. It's because
Mm.
you don't come to it like uh, a wannabe hyper pop rapper. You know what I mean? Just like
Hmm.
finding YouTube beats. You come to it in a whole different way. Which I will say there is no shame in finding a beat on YouTube, hopping on it, leasing that beat, buying that beat exclusive. You know,
Hmm.
and just doing that. There's no shame in that. You're still a songwriter. You're still valid. But there is when we get to the I guess like the ivory tower esque of music,
Hmm.
we all are being pretentious and we've got our jewels on and we're oh your craft is finer than my craft. But you get what I'm saying. It's just like not to invalidate anyone else, but the way that you work, it seems to be s- so much more uh I guess thoughtful than the way a lot of other people work, which is fine because art doesn't have to necessarily be uh, a strenuous process either. Or how long does it take you to write a song?
Um, I mean, anywhere between like 15 minutes and 2 years. Uh, um, like, I mean, specifically on the album, like Hermit Crab, the kind of second to last track on the album, I like wrote and produced and recorded in an afternoon. And something like, I'm trying to think. you know, wrong time, wrong place took like a couple years of like drafting and lyrics and like stuff like that. So I think it depends on the content of the song, and kind of depends on, I don't know, the magic juice, that's always eluding me. But yeah, it can vary greatly.
This is we'll get into the album in just a second, but I
Mhm.
kind of just want to shoot the shit a little more about music. And do you think that um it's faster or slower for you to make music as an individual, just a solo digital artist, in
Mm.
comparison to when you were making analog music?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I mean, this is kind of a cop out answer, but I think it's like apples to oranges, um, because, uh, uh, me making music on my own is just me kind of like turning knobs until it sounds good, you know. Whereas like collaborating with people and like, making stuff kind of analog is this really, uh, uh, like, uh, personal and interpersonal collaborative project, you know? And so I think it's just like, I don't know if I can even compare, the two. Um, but I love them both. And, some of these songs on the record, and my previous songs I wrote on guitar before I produced them as, these full kind of like electronic pieces. Um, and you know the other way around, sometimes I'll take like a full electronic piece and strip it back, to this kind of like bare bones singer songwriter level. So I think, yeah, I don't know if that fully answered your question, but yeah.
That that made complete sense. Like fully answered my question, and also simultaneously didn't answer the question.
Okay,
It was pretty
that's cool.
it was pretty powerful because like yeah, but like I get what you're saying, especially that it is like apples to oranges. That because I you could like quickly like compare it, if you really had to, but it is really like apples to oranges in
Mhm.
the way of especially getting together with people and making music compared to making music digitally,
Mhm.
like remotely. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, are are all of your collabs on this album remote collabs?
um Not all of them. Most of them are, the closer to the album, Mirror's song. I did with my best friend Juno, and we wrote. It's kind of and this is kind of getting more into the album, so we can talk about this more later. But the song is like a kind of reprise of one of the songs on my first mixtape, um, and Juno came to me kind of like with new lyrics to this old song. And I thought it was so cool. So we kind of worked to expand that idea more. And that was super fun to just like sit with two guitars in her bedroom, and write a song together. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. That's so cool. That's so dope. Like, love hearing that.
Hmm.
Uh, so we'll talk more on that in, well, it won't be a moment because that is your song is the last track. But
Hmm.
let's get into the album.
Hmm.
So each track, I want to know basically everything you think is important. I'll ask some questions as you talk about it.
Hmm.
But generally, like, you don't have to sample snitch on yourself, but if you know, what some samples in there, very
Totally.
obvious. I know where those are from.
Hmm.
But yeah, just like And also, I would like to know how long each track took. So let's say for each track, I want to hear the goal of the track, how long it took to make that track, and your favorite thing about that track.
Yeah, okay, I can do that. Um, yeah, so should we just jump into it? Should I start?
Yes. So yes, tell me about. I'm 2 years on hormones, and I'm still sad. I want a refund because
Uh,
same, same.
yeah. So this was actually the like last track that I completed on the album. Um, I think we'll get into this later, but I think uh, uh, as I was finishing the record, I kind of realized how similar it was in a way to my first mixtape, Femininity.exe, and how it kind of like commented on the place where I was with that first mixtape. Um, and so I kind of wanted to like reinforce that kind of idea with this track. Obviously, it takes a sample from Hunter Schafer in Euphoria, her character Jules, talking about kind of femininity and like womanhood, and uh, it's just this kind of spacey, glitchy computer interlude to start off the record. I started my mixtape, Femininity.exe, with another sample from Hunter Schafer in Euphoria. And in that sample, she was talking about kind of womanhood as this like series of levels, right? Collecting mana and potions and leveling up one after the other with hormones and clothes and surgeries and everything else, right? And I think the kind of idea of the record is looking at that conception of femininity as this series of levels, and realizing that that's kind of a lie, right? There's no maxed out level, right? And it's so unhealthy to conceptualize your womanhood as something that you can win at, because that implies that you can lose, right? So I took this sample of Hunter Schafer saying, um, uh, somewhere along the I spent my entire life trying to conquer femininity, but somewhere along the way, femininity conquered me. Um, and I feel like that's, I mean, really true to the message of the album, and really true to my personal experience. And it also kind of comments on that same uh, uh, construction of femininity that is something you can win, right? Um, a like video game that you can beat. Let's see. It took me about an afternoon to make. It was like I was looking at the track list and I was like, I want this beginning interlude, and so I threw it together. And yeah, I just love the way it kind of ties this record to my previous work, even though this record is so new and different sonically. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Definitely like can attest to the, especially like when you first come out and you're online, especially online, there is people who are literally documenting like them just playing, pretending to play the game and get their mana and their potions for femininity and things like that.
Hmm.
Like it's it's kind of like, I don't know. I know personally, like it almost was like pushed upon me. Like I would be weird if I wasn't, seeking all these things to establish like if femininity came from outside sources, and like
Hmm.
other people were attesting to that.
Hmm.
So yeah, uh, and sometimes it's fun to play the game and it's
Hmm.
enjoyable and it's rewarding, but other times you're playing a game and you're like, whoa, hold up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
Ah,
think lots of these songs on this record kind of reflect on those those moments of like oh, I'm so focused on winning, I didn't realize that I'm like killing myself, with like various, completely unhealthy habits. It's just that hyperfixation on like I need to do this and this and this, and then I'll be a real woman. And that's so unbelievably unhealthy. And it's a trap. Even all cis women don't hold up to those standards. It's just this kind of like lie that trans women are made to believe.
Absolutely. Which like just like side note, um, and this is one of those things. It's like we can both do this because we are trans, and
Mm-hmm.
cis people cannot. The game of where you try to clock somebody, honestly, like
Mm-hmm.
because you're not like this person has a chin kind of like mine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, and then it's just like no, it's just like a cis woman with a strong chin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then that reminds you, like cis women have strong chins too. Like women, women have all kinds of chins. What? You know that
Yeah.
that like yeah, that's like one thing that really like sometimes uh kind of not as much now. I don't need it as much now, but definitely when I was first coming out as a feminine identity, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't identify as a woman anymore. I've
Mm-hmm.
gone back to identifying as non-binary, but I'm definitely like a feminine entity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but when I was like, just playing the binary because I didn't really want to. Uh, I wanted to be accepted. That's what I was. My whole thing
Mm-hmm.
was like uh, coming out as like a non-binary femme. People are very like, you know, it's not as clear cut to like cis people, especially like like when you tell people like, oh, I'm a trans woman, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I know what that is. But if you're like,
Totally.
I'm a non-binary femme, they're like, um, does that like what does that mean? It's like, god
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah. Totally.
Uh, yeah, so there is a lot of just like assimilation there. But that's another thing like that gets pushed on, feminine people is to assimilate to this like standard that no one actually can meet up to.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. And I think at that point the game stops being fun. When I started my transition, I like loved doing my makeup and I was so excited to take hormones and painting my nails and growing out my hair and like all these things. And then at some point it started to feel like work that I was doing for everyone else, instead of myself, right? And that's that point of like suddenly femininity is conquering you, instead of the other way around. And it's just so heartbreaking.
Yeah. And it's and that's like a universal experience of women cuz like there are it's like a stereotype because it's a real thing of like cis women spending hours doing their makeup every day and things like
Hmm.
that. Like your life gets dominated by those things regardless when it stops being for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, where it's like I gotta spend 4 hours getting ready to go to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they say it and they're like, oh, I just said that. Huh. But like if that's what you want to do, live it. But like there is a
Hmm.
point where that can conquer you, where it's like you're doing it all for some invisible judge
Yeah.
to give you a pass or not.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my God. Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, sorry, tangent city, and we'll keep, but it's all relevant to the record. We get into the actual song. So I guess, the first track is an intro. It is an
Hmm.
actual song, but the second track, we get through the intro, we hear at Clean Plate Club, featuring
Hmm.
Peach Rings.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Clean Plate Club is a song that I wrote kind of last winter. Um, I was just, you know, angsty, and I was, having uh, really bad struggles with eating disorders. I won't get into any details, so we don't need any like content warnings or anything. But yeah, I was just having a really hard time with my ED. Um, and I was kind of isolated. I was at home for my school's winter break, and I felt alone, and it's just this like overwhelming feeling of like angst and dysphoria, and this kind of ridiculous realization. The title of the album comes from I was in therapy, and I was talking with my therapist, and I was, telling him about this kind of like disordered eating that had flared up. Um, and uh, I was like, hey, well, at least I know I'm a real woman now because I have an eating disorder. Um, it's ridiculous. I was so focused on my appearance and everything. And so I kind of like just wanted to make something with loud guitars and a bunch of distortion. Um, and I threw the track together in probably a couple of days. And then I sat on it for about, 7, 8 months. And then I was, texting with Peatrings. Ramona, she's like really awesome DIY kind of power pop. And I was like, hey, you should totally sing on this song. So I sent it to her. She put down an amazing verse. Um, uh, and then it was kind of done. I got my friend Juno to add some lead guitars, and I was super super happy with it. It's just such an amazing like explosive first start to the record, which was really important to me.
Yeah, and I can say if you haven't heard the album and you're listening to this and you need like some convincing, I'll say it now. It's fucking dope. It's a it's a great second track. You have a very, I will say, within 9 tracks, you have a very epic album. You know, it goes a lot of places. It's not epic like gamer win epic. It's epic like epic poem esque like
Mm-hmm.
massive expand within like you know it's a pretty it's a pretty short listen for
Mm-hmm.
what's there, especially Clean Plate Club. What's your favorite thing? I forgot to ask also the favorite thing about 2 years on hormones.
Yeah, I think so. Should I do I'm 2 years on hormones first?
Yeah,
Does it
yeah. Tell me
matter?
the favorite thing for both. Yeah,
Okay. So
doesn't
for I'm
matter.
2 years on hormones, I mean, I love the way that the Hunter Schafer sample kind of connects back to the old record. I think it's really cool to start off the record that way, and kind of building this like canon of work. So I just love the sample so much. I think my favorite part about Clean Plate Club is the kind of bridge where everything like glitches the fuck out, and it's just these huge slams of guitars, um, and then my vocals like glitching the fuck out too. It's the part where it's like I spent years wishing I was cis, or at least that I could look like it. Um, I just love that moment, and it's kind of this like realization of like I got what I wanted, and I'm so much worse off for it. And yeah, I think it's a really cool moment on the track.
Yeah, hell yeah. So then we move on to Cloud Emoji featuring Fluoride. It's just Fluoride, right? The two eyes.
Hmm.
Okay, that's what I had assumed. But Fluoride would be another, right? That's how you would read it.
Yeah, I think it's fluoride.
Uh,
Um,
that's fluoride for sure. There's no way they would be like fluoride that unless they wanted to just fuck with people.
yeah, no. Yeah, no, they're my friend James. So the singer on this song is actually a friend of mine from high school. Her name's Eliza Funk. Um, and she doesn't have like an artist name or anything. We just made music together when I was like maybe 16, 17, pre-transition. And this song was originally kind of about this like boy that I was pining over at the time. And I took the kind of my friend Fluoride and I, James, we were talking about music, and I sent them the stems from this song that I made when I was like 17, and they sent back this cool, like groovy, uh, amazing like minute of music, and I was like, that's so cool. And so I and then like James got super busy and kind of stopped making music under the name Fluoride for a while. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna finish this song. And so I added some more like bossa nova guitars, um, and some cool little drums and this like interlude of my boyfriend talking to me. Um, and the result was kind of this cool, like weird, like hyper bossa nova track, super chill. And I think my boyfriend's name is Rain, so I kind of like twisted the title of the song to be about him and kind of about feeling uh, like not enough of a woman to be in a relationship with someone who's attracted to women, you know? It's overall, it's this like cheesy love song, you know, it's cute. It's me kicking my feet in the air. And then there's that one line that's like, am I even enough of a woman? That kind of like adds that darker element to it. Um, yeah, I think my favorite part of the song is the kind of like, the interlude with the sample from my boyfriend. He was just like recording on his phone, talking to me while we were out on a walk. I think it's really cute. And yeah, so I wrote the song over the course of like 4 years, basically. But
Yeah,
I love the
that
song.
song started at an early age.
Totally.
Hell yeah, that's really cool. Good use of recycling,
Mm-hmm.
and collaboration. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm like I had to mentally remember my three questions and then try to remember if you had answered them all. And yes, you did. Uh, welcome to the podcast business. Next, we are on to fantasy featuring "Happy Birthday, Mr. Baskets." Tell me about
Yes.
fantasy.
So, Fantasy is a song that I wrote. It was like I wrote it a couple days, or I started writing it a couple days after I was like harassed in public for being trans. I went into a like Whole Foods bathroom, and uh, some lady like started screaming at me and told me that I belonged to the men's bathroom, and it was overall not a great experience. And so uh, I was just so like I had so many emotions, and I was just in this like spiral, and I was like, I need to get this out. So I kind of just started with that thesis of like, oh, I want to talk about this thing that happened to me and how I'm feeling about it. I think I was feeling like this kind of right. It's the chorus of the song is shattered pieces of the fantasy that I could just exist. I was feeling like I was naive for believing that I could go into the women's restroom, um, that I could pass well enough, or that I could, you know, be pretty enough, you know, and that I should have tried harder. I should have done my makeup better, or talked, you know, softer and more high up, or done anything, you know, to prevent this thing from happening to me. Um, and so, yeah, when I was starting to write lyrics, I was really focused on that idea of a broken fantasy. So I wanted to incorporate a lot of kind of like fairy tale imagery, talking about princesses and using a lot of, I mentioned Marceline from Adventure Time and whatnot, and kind of like juxtaposing that with this kind of harsh real world imagery, um, and then when it came to produce the song, I was thinking about like kind of doubling down on that fantasy imagery, right, and kind of making it sound like um, this forgotten Game Boy game or something. I took a sample from the Adventure Time soundtrack, this fun little like synth harp, and produced around it, and then took a sample of dialogue from Adventure Time, um, which was a show I was like binging at the time to like deal with my emotions. It was a comfort show, um,
Yeah.
and then. Yeah, a couple months later, Mia and Happy Birthday, Mr. Baskets were talking, and I made space for another verse, and sent them the track, and she put down an amazing verse, and I love it so much. And then it was kind of finished.
Hell yeah. Damn. Yeah, that is so cool. Sorry. I just like had a brain fart. It's just like so cool that you like really truly like double down on ideas like that too. Just like, yeah. Lyrically, you just really chase the whole idea throughout everything. It's nothing seems to be happenstance really.
Hmm.
It seems like you orchestrate everything very well. Uh,
Thank you.
you're
Yeah, I think
welcome.
my favorite part of this song, because I was like going crazy with the video game samples in this one, and I think my favorite part is there's this line that I'm fucking lost, my bubble popped. I think I'm gonna be sick. And right after the my bubble popped line, I sampled the move bubble from Pokemon X and Y. I have a whole folder on my computer of just all the Pokemon sound effects. And so there's just this
Hell
little
yeah.
bubble popping sound that I love. It's so fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course you had that. You didn't know that once you come out, that those sound fonts, those sound files are actually installed on your computer without any
I
permission.
know they just appeared after I took my first estrogen pill. It's
It's
crazy.
yeah. First time you see a doctor about transitioning, they actually do appear. Um,
Totally. Yeah. The
yeah.
government installs
Otherwise,
them
like you're
on.
free and you're safe. But yeah, as soon as the government knows you're fucked, you're getting those Pokemon sounds.
Totally.
Otherwise, you're free. Shout out no op. You know they're free. Uh, sorry, that was a dumb joke. All right, so morbid obsession.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So this song I originally wrote uh, as a kind of slow, creepy guitar ballad. I was, my thesis for this one was this idea of kind of like being so focused on your appearance is unhealthy, right? It relates a lot to Clean Plate Club. But kind of this like, oh, I need everybody to tell me I'm pretty all the time, or I'm gonna have a breakdown, right? This unbelievably unreal um, uh, obsession, and also, no, wait, don't tell me I'm pretty because you're just gonna be lying to me if you do. This weird fixation on my looks, body dysmorphia, and uh, this inability to actually truly believe I look like what I look like. Um, so I liked the idea of portraying like body dysmorphia through horror. So I, kind of used all these like this really gruesome, dark imagery about like eating intestines and like to reflect that kind of like desperate validation, right? Sacrifice me to Aphrodite. All those kind of little tidbits. But when I was producing the song, I was really struggling with it for like a solid couple of weeks. I I like just I couldn't get it right, and then I realized that uh, of course, like a song about being pretty shouldn't be this slow, creepy guitar ballad, right? It should be like super cute and super feminine, you know? And so I reproduced it, drawing a lot of inspiration from like Alasong Yugao to be this kind of like bubbly dance beat with these really gruesome and like vomit inducing lyrics and all these like little horror samples and stuff like that. I think it turned out really well. I think it helps kind of emphasize the original idea behind the song, and just works super well. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Your favorite thing?
yeah. I really like the kind of third verse with the vocal chops and the sample in it from Ibuki Miyoda from Danganronpa. Uh, it's just I think it's super fun. It's super bouncy, and I love. I manipulated the sample to make her say that girl. She's totally the type of guy to kill animals in her childhood. And I just think it's super silly and always makes me laugh when I listen to it. So yeah, I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah, that personally, that's my favorite part of that track too. That one's choice. Um, so how long did that track? Sorry, I did a dab while you were talking, and I'm like now like about to cough, and I'm holding it back. Got it out. How long did that track to make take to make?
Um, I wrote it like on my guitar in an afternoon, but it took probably like 3 or 4 months to like complete because I was just like really struggling with the production. But once that kind of idea clicked of like, oh, this needs to be bubbly and fun, I finished the main body of the song in about 2 weeks. After that, it was like some small tweaks in the mix and adjustments and whatnot, but yeah, probably like 3 or 4 months, and then a solid 2 weeks once I really got the idea like in my grasp.
Okay, so like yeah, just some time like feeling it out, and then once you figure it out what you're going for, like you just nailed
Hmm.
it down.
Yeah,
Hell
I
yeah.
have like 40 different demos of this song and like different styles and tempos and instrumentations and whatnot, and then I finally like yeah figured it out.
Yeah. Um. So next we are on to Wrong Time, Wrong Place, featuring, and I can never. It's Baby, right? That Baby, that's their name.
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay,
think it's just baby.
that's what I had thought, but I was like, I've never heard anyone say it because they're not like you know a household name yet. Emphasis on
Totally.
it yet. Um, so yeah, Baby. Which like real goaded feat there. Good job on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, their verse on this song is so good, so infectious. They're so good. I played with a show with them a couple months back, and it was just so fun. And they're truly just like going places. But yeah, wrong time, wrong place. I think this is one of the songs I wrote kind of later in the stages of this album. I I was kind of taking a step back and thinking about all of the ways in which kind of my womanhood has like in a way negatively impacted my life, right? How my treating womanhood like that video game that you could just need to beat another level has affected me, right? It's caused me to like blame myself for the way people treat me. It's caused me to struggle with my eating. It's caused me to be unsure in my relationships. It's caused me to like focus on my appearance. And I think wrong time, wrong place is kind of about my confusion about my own sexuality, right? And my struggles with compet. So the song is about kind of the first like boy I was in love with, and we were both we both identified as men at the time, and we um, it was this weird like love triangle situation where we originally both liked the same girl and we were like enemy. It comes straight out of a fucking Wattpad um, fan fiction, but it's like originally we liked the same girl and we were like rivals, and then we started to feel things for each other, um, and I think in that kind of weird, not really a relationship, it was really just me like wanting to be a woman. And I think the person that I was with really hadn't admitted to themselves that they were attracted to men yet. And so it was this weird, like, oh, neither of us can be what the other person wants us to be. Um, and so just this weird, like fucked up, dumb relationship. And that wasn't even a relationship. I don't know. I'm rambling about this story, but yeah, I kind of I feel like this one is the most kind of messy track on the album. It goes so many different places because I still haven't really like figured out how I feel about uh, 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 men or how I feel about that relationship. But I think it's like, yeah, it's. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just totally spacing out. Um,
You
I
were
just
all
kind
good.
of,
You were
yeah. I just kind of go through the kind of like feelings that I have about that relationship. I was super into listening like a lot of James Ivy at the time, and a lot of that kind of like post nurture Porter Robinson influenced hyperpop, and so I wanted to make something that felt a little bit like that. I don't want to be a Porter Robinson clone, but like with the kind of like glitchy pianos and whatnot. So I incorporated a lot of that. I wanted to make it feel pretty like lush in the vocals and the instrumentation and everything. Um, and yeah, I sent it to B, and they were like totally, and they sent their verse back. Um, yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't know. Sorry, you can ask more specific questions about that. I just kind of got lost in my thoughts about that track.
no, you were all good. What is your favorite thing about that track?
Um, it's a good question. I think I like. I think I had the most fun with B's verse, honestly, because like their vocals are just so catchy, so infectious, and originally when they sent it to me, it was kind of sung over the same kind of like driving bass line and driving drums that the first two verses are sung over. But I was like, I want to do something different with this verse. It feels more special. So I did some like funky production and those kind of like super delay synths, and I got this really cool effect that I like. And so I love B's verse so much.
Hell yeah. Um, sorry, I've definitely now talked like I was going to die, like 4 times. I just want to let the podcast know I did a reclaim dab, and it hit me a lot harder than I thought it would. I'm listening intently, and I'm extremely grateful for Discord's noise suppression. Um, sorry, just a little gag there. Definitely a
No, you're
joke.
so fine.
Uh, so Heart Sore, featuring it's Louis.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The song. So this song was inspired by kind of when I was struggling with the same stuff with fantasy. I couldn't leave my room for about like 2 weeks. Like it was really bad. I was full agoraphobic, um, and uh, I my boyfriend would come visit me, and one day he brought me flowers, but he brought it with a sticky note that said, "You make my heart sore." But he had spelled sore wrong. He had spelled it SORE, um, and he meant to spell it sore as in like you make my heart fly. SOAR, which I thought was like such a funny uh, uh, like typo, and I thought it was really cool the way that they kind of reflected on how like yeah, sometimes the people we love can make our heart sore, and other times they can make our heart sore. And so uh, that kind of like homophone is what started this song. My friend Louis goes to the same school as me, so we did this song as an assignment for one of our music classes. And he's also like incredible hyperpop producer and artist. Love him so much, and so we kind of like sat down and made this song together with this idea, and what it kind of uh, uh, came out being is this kind of idea of is this singing this like love song, this love hate relationship to yourself, right? Uh, this idea that like oh, sometimes I look in the mirror and I see the best thing in the world and I'm so happy with myself. And then other times I look in the mirror and it's like I want to fucking kill you, right? And so we play that with that a lot. We go back and forth from this kind of like slow, sad ballad, sounding to be about heartbreak, and then to this fast, like hyperkinetic, bubbly dance beat. Uh, Going back and forth between that and the production. I think lyrically we jump around too of like, oh, I love you so much. Um, and then the next verse is like, go fucking die, you know? Um, and yeah, I think overall this one is just like super, super fun pop song. I think I was thinking about this one a lot less than the other one because it was, kind of an in-person collaboration. But it worked really well into the context of my album without even realizing it. There's that line, "It's never enough," that appears on like several tracks throughout the album. And I use as like my producer tag on the whole of the album, and without even realizing it, Louis actually used the line "It's never enough" um, in his verse that he wrote for the song. So I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like great, good tie-in. You know,
Hmm.
like yes, especially when it's like not you that says it. It's like the feature. It's like yes, they're part of the You're part of the metaverse now.
Totally.
Uh, so how long did that one take to make? I'm sorry. Did you already say that? I feel like you did
Yeah, I
mention.
think we made it in about a week, aside from some mixing stuff, because we were in this songwriting class together with our professor Julia Holter, who her music is also crazy, and we got this assignment, and we had to just basically finish this song in a week, and so we just like threw it together. I was so happy with how it turned out. It was so fun to make, and Louis just crazy talented. So it was a great time.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Um, and I after you brought up Never Enough being your producer
Mm-hmm.
tag, so I have a Photoshop document titled Never Enough, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what did I listen to today that that is from? Because I just named my Photoshop documents after song titles or like lines in songs.
Mm-hmm.
You said that, I was like, oh no shit. Yeah, I did listen to that 3 times today.
Yeah, totally. That's so cool.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, probably later tonight you'll see a collage from me titled Never Enough. So
Oh my god, exciting.
yeah. But so I feel like the way you describe your experience with Heart Sore, I kind of already know your favorite thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your favorite thing about it?
Um, wow, yeah, I think the chorus is just like it's just such a cool little lyrical uh, uh, gem. I love a good like simplistic pop chorus that says something. So I love that. I also love I think all the little like bleep bloops and sounds and little samples thrown in, especially to that kind of fast chorus section. I think is super fun. I think that's probably my favorite part because it reminds me of when Louis and I were making this track. It was just like us trying to one up each other with like sounds we could find or make or whatever. And so it was just like, okay, at the end of this bar, I'm gonna put this sound, and then Louis was like, oh, okay, next bar, this sound, and so it's just this like explosion of all these like different samples and sound design and like whatever. It was super fun. So yeah.
Okay, that was not what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be the namesake, truly,
Mm.
because that's just because now that I know, that's my favorite thing about it is the spelling heart the wrong sore. Like hell yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess, I guess,
just
I
like
guess. No, now that you say that, totally, that's my favorite part.
so hermit crab.
Hmm.
Tell me about that. We had I can't remember if it was this take or the other one. We had talked about it a little bit, but yeah, hermit crab.
Yeah, this is a track I wrote and recorded in literally like one afternoon. Uh, it I feel like it sums up a lot of or kind of is like the silver lining to a lot of the kind of like dark on this album, right? And it uses that kind of like staple phrase, "It's never enough," as the chorus of the song. Um, the whole idea is this extended metaphor of the hermit crab of oh, I left this shell of being a man, only to put myself in this like slightly bigger shell of uh, being, a binary trans woman, ultra feminine trans woman, that is only so much more spacious, right? And still just isn't made for me. And so, throughout the song, that chorus of "It's never enough, it's never enough, it's never enough" goes from this kind of like doomery, totally neglectful, like, or totally like, yeah, nihilistic. Sorry, that was a word. Um, Perspective on like, oh, no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough. It's never going to be good enough. To at the end, I say like, I'll cut my hair and change my pronouns to whatever. Playing a losing game was never any fun, right? And so connecting to that idea of womanhood as this video game, um, and in after that verse, the same chorus becomes this like, oh, it's never enough, right? So I don't give a fuck. Uh, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And so I really like how I think my favorite part of this track is how the meaning of that chorus changes depending on the verse that precedes it. Yeah, super fun track. I think it's probably my favorite track on the record.
Yeah. And you said you made that all in one afternoon, which is just like to also have that metaphor work so well, to like have that, I guess, more uh, advanced writing technique, uh,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not just like where you really are playing with metaphor and you're actually like being more less direct, and
Mm-hmm.
like where like if someone weren't to get what like weren't to get the metaphor, they would be confused by the song almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which like yeah, because I always listen to songs. I'm like, what if someone didn't get what they were talking about? Like, what would you think they would think the song's about? And
Totally.
this is one where I was like, well, if you don't know, if you like, you don't get what's going on here, you're gonna be so confused. Uh, but that's like good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Um, and then we move on to Mirror Song, which we mentioned a little bit. But tell me about Mirror Song, featuring Messy Room,
Yeah.
Astros.
So this song, it's like a full circle moment, really, with the album, right? The same like intro sound that starts the album on "I'm 2 Years on Hormones," um, is the last kind of guitar bit of the record looped over and over again. And so this is really a record that you can listen to on repeat, and it'll kind of sound like it's actually looping. I think it's also a full circle moment because I mean it's the same chord progression as the intro. I'm 2 years on hormones. The same melody, everything, and all of that is based on the the melody and kind of harmony of my Face with Mirrors, which is a song I released on my mixtape 2 years ago. So it's kind of this like recycling melodies and chord changes and whatever, but in this way that's like really, really recycling, right? Making something new and commenting on that old song. Um, I think the first time I heard the lyrics that Juno wrote to this song, she wrote the first verse. I wrote the second, kind of like slower verse. I cried because it was My Face with Mirrors was such. Uh, I don't know if you're familiar with the older songs, but it was such like a gut wrenching song. It's me screaming like, um, I'm just a confused tranny who wants to get her dick removed. Um, and then Juno was able to rewrite the song as this beautiful, just piece of like self love. Um, there's this line that's like, "I can't help but smile. I don't care if I look plain dumb at the thought of you slowly disappearing under my tongue," which is about like that how estrogen dissolves under your tongue. And I think it's just like so beautiful that she was able to transform this into this song about suffering into something entirely new. And then I think with my verse, where it kind of slows down, um, uh, the the like I wanted to kind of stand back and look at this record as a whole. And you know, there's this line, uh, drinking bright pink ethanol, love the hurt, because after all, womanhood is pain. Right? And it's this kind of like really intense, but also tongue in cheek moment, where, like, of course, I don't believe womanhood is pain, right? But it's this maybe release of like all the stuff I'd let myself believe before then, right? Um, and it's kind of that moment where you know that I guess I'm a woman now is the title is ironic. You know, it's no, this isn't womanhood. Pain isn't womanhood. Eating disorders aren't womanhood. Getting harassed isn't womanhood. Like all of these things aren't what make up womanhood. It isn't pain. It's something so much more beautiful than that. And so I think it's just like I was really happy to be able to close out the record with that kind of like um, ironic sense of beauty. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, hell yeah. It definitely is like a very powerful closer, and it ends on that good note, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like which like yeah, which is it's a good con, and then like starting back over where because it kind of is like, you know, even though you have that knowledge and that you've written this song right, it's still the ninth track on the album, and life is very cyclical. Just as you
Mm-hmm.
can listen to this album on repeat, you're still probably gonna have to take yourself through these songs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
one by one every once in a while, to get back to track nine being like your anthem, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if that makes any sense. I know that works that way with me with my own music as well. Of like, I've written this and I know this. Like, I put it in a song, and like today I
Mm-hmm.
just like forgot, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, um, do you have any closing thoughts, or I guess did you did tell me your favorite thing about that song, right?
Um, I think the line. I think my favorite thing is that line about, you know, dissolving under my tongue. Because it made me cry the first time I heard it. Like, it's so beautiful. And I think just Juno is a fantastic songwriter, and I'm so happy I get to make this with her.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was like debating with myself whether you had said something about like that being your favorite, but like the way you had talked about it, it's definitely seemed like it was your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just like working with Juno in general, like seemed
Mm-hmm.
pretty stoked on that, which like that is so cool. Especially someone to like pay homage to your old stuff, to like create something new with you
Mm-hmm.
that way. And it being someone else that tied your new project to your old project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So, um, the interlude I haven't heard. Tell me about the interlude that I haven't heard.
Oh
That's gonna
yeah.
go.
So it's called "Kiss Me," um, kind of like setting up this weird relationship with the cis boy I was in love with when I was in high school. It takes a sample from Sort of. Have you seen this show? Sort of.
I have not.
It's like a show, like I think it's a Canadian show about this like trans feminine person kind of navigating their life, and it's gorgeous. And basically, it takes it from this scene where they're like, there's this cis straight guy that's you know in love with them, and they're like, the guy says that they're in love, that he's in love with them, and they're like, oh really, you're in love with me, then kiss me, and he doesn't do it, and she's like, see, you're in love with me but you're ashamed of me, so that's not love. um, and so the track's going to be kind of a Toby Fox inspired little video game interlude, with that sample playing over it.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear that part. I am very glad to have heard the whole album. Besides that, so far, uh, the final mixes. It sounds really good. So I was bumping it through my Bose. I got my Bose sound system from like 2000. That still, I would say, holds up because Bose
Awesome.
makes some pretty good stuff. And it was shaking my desk. It was good. It's good stuff.
Awesome. That's lovely to hear.
So, do you have any closing thoughts? Or, yeah, any closing thoughts? Anything you really hope that people take away from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea, even though it sounds cheesy, is like, don't let anyone else kind of define womanhood for you. Uh, it's it's really not something that anybody can do. I don't think I could even define womanhood for myself, you know. Um, and I think it's just, do what makes you happy. I I'm very proud of this record and all the work that went into it, and I'm really excited for everybody to hear. I'm going to be going on tour this winter. Um, or, I mean, I guess by the time this comes out, most of the tour dates will have already happened. But you can look me up on Instagram to check out the tour dates, at Tamagotchi Massacre. Um, and yeah, I just hope y'all enjoy the record. And I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you, Ivaka, and like, um, yeah, to make music.
Yeah. I don't think we need to close. I'm just gonna let it be like a just a harsh close.